All right, there's 4 points we're going to cover. One is a review of the schedule, and which is the most important thing. That's the cake we're baking, follows a schedule, and any other schedule is a different cake. So we want to bake the same cake. So we want to review the schedule, then the hungry rule, which I will include as I'm going through the schedule. And then can we do more than one in Zoom? Yes, we can. And we'll talk a minute about that. And then remembering the spelling words. Okay. All right. Let's talk in the context of the schedule. So I'm going to go ahead and boot up the lessons book, which has the schedule in it. And this is our Bible in terms of, this is the one thing we want to follow pretty exactly. Now you got a lot of room how you teach stuff and your schedule and pace, but here
you're not sharing your screen
because I'm not there yet. Okay. All right, I'm here now. Good. Okay. So here is the basic schedule. And as long as you follow this schedule and have half the period with reading, you're guaranteed results. Guaranteed. Impossible not to get results. Why do I say that? Well, each book raises grade level. And if you're doing these concepts, which will allow the books to move, as you progress through books, if you're doing this in the timed readings, they will improve in both grade level and time level. It's a predictable process. There's only a couple exceptions to that I've had over 50 years. And these are kids with severe issues who aren't willing to put in the extra work at home. There's only been a couple, okay? One of them I gave the choice. I said, listen, I can't help you unless you're willing to do this at home. We talked about a severity, he just wasn't willing to. So I said, okay, when you're ready, we'll get back with you. But that was a case where I'd worked with the child a while, but he really needed to do this. He wasn't willing to do the work. He may be interested again. So if he is, he may be involved in the clinic. So let's look at the schedule and why it's this way. It changes brain centers. Okay, so let's look at this. Spelling sounds comes in through the ear and it's hitting the linguistic component of the brain, more the temporal lobe. Reading sounds, I'm seeing and pointing, it's hitting the back part, occipital lobe, and the kinesthetic part. So I'm changing brain centers. New concept is frontal lobe. It's conceptual. So notice I'm going from Wernicke's language to occipital visual to now frontal lobe conceptual. Now that they have that, I go back to the language level, but I add sequencing, which is getting in Broca's much more involved, the sequencing with the Wernicke's, and I'm adding sequencing to that. Then I move to reading, which is back here, and I'm adding sequencing. Keep in mind when you see a syllable, it does not come in order in the brain. The letters come in a random order and the brain has to organize it. The brain gets more efficient at organization the more they read. Presently, the brain initially is not efficient, so the letters are in random order. So therefore, we've got to get them to systematically sound out left to right. That's why, Randy, when kids were having trouble sounding out words, they couldn't hold it. I said, glue the vowel to the consonant for the syllable work. So you go bad, bad, back to help that left to right pattern. Now, after that, we go to reading of syllables, which is again back here with the sequential element that we just talked about. Spelling of words is uniting the language area with the kinesthetic area. And it requires more memory and a lot of processing because you got to remember the word. As you remember the word, you got to remember it while you write it. You got to remember the sounds that are associated. And you also have to kinesthetically remember how to make them or type them. It's very involved, more involved than reading. Then we move to the reading, and the reading is a combination of visual with frontal lobe and right hemisphere. It's a total brain activity. Because when you read, if you don't know a word, you're sounding it out, which is here. And then you go, I know that word. And then as you're predicting, you're using frontal lobe and inference. And then as you're getting into the affective components, you're hitting the right hemisphere about how do these people feel. It's hitting a total brain concept. And then writing is back to kinesthetic. So the model was put together knowing that we wanted to change brain centers. And that's why we can do this in 50 minutes without the kid being bored or worn out, is we're hitting different parts of the brain. This schedule was devised also to stimulate the word form area, which is the #1 reason kids with dyslexia can't read. They have fuzzy sounds, and when they're sounding out words, they're sounding it incorrectly. So the language area isn't picking it up and the word form area is not firing. If you do this schedule regularly, you stimulate the word form area, which then helps the child better at sounding out words, and the whole package occurs. So this particular cake we're baking is meant for a couple reasons. One is it teaches kids how to read, it stimulates the word form area, and it changes brain functioning so a child does not get fatigued in the process. It's multidimensional. So now the reason it begins with spelling or mouth is because this is where any problems they had is what I'm focusing on here. So if they didn't know the R, L, X, Y, and let's say A and ah, in my spelling, I put more focus on that because really what I'm doing is reteaching when I'm doing the mouth. So when I'm going, yeah, and they're going, yeah, and I go, yeah, I'm really reteaching, rrr, and they do rrr, ul, they do ul. So the oral is kind of reteaching the problems. When I go to reading sounds, it's fast pointing, it's automaticity. So the spelling is getting it into the head. If I just taught diphthongs, of course, I'd warm up orally, making sure the diphthongs are correctly and any problems. And then in reading, I point real quickly to make it automatic. Notice in spelling that after I do the sounds, I give definitions of suffixes like action, and they would point to ing and say ing. Most, they'd point to est. I just give a few definitions. And then if I've done walkers, yellows, or reds, I tell them, let's review the walkers. And I give them, let's review the yellows. Reading, I point to suffixes and occasionally say, is it a bully or not? And then I do the slide drill with C and G. This whole thing, when you get efficient, should only be a few minutes because you're hitting the problem sounds orally, then you're rapidly moving. You're hitting a few suffixes each day. You're not doing them all. And you don't want to get too hung up here because as you get hung up here, you take away time from reading, and reading needs to be half the period. So if you got 50 minutes, 25 minutes for reading. Now today, a student I was observing, a tutor, he was at 30 minutes and wasn't spelling the syllables. So I stopped him and said, you're at 30 minutes, you're at spelling, what do you need to do? He says, I need to stop what I'm doing and go to reading, which is what we did. We stopped right there. Okay, new concept will be based usually on the book or the spelling concept they're at. Usually for reading, you want to be one concept ahead of the book you're in. So when you're midway through a book, you want to be preparing. So again, the student, his name is George, the tutor, he's halfway through Raft Trip, which is vowel tag. So today I had him teach vowel change and open close silent E to prepare for his next book, which will come in 2 days. So this, you never want your concepts to be several ahead. It's a waste of time. Only one or so ahead. Okay. Spelling syllables, you have 2 types of tracking, step or concept. Step is when they're point to each sound. Concept is where they make a change. You just make it, and I'll show that. And then we have the reading syllables. Now, reading syllables we're building from the manual, but for older kids or kids past, like our family or further, I will often, rather than build it on the board, just go to the manual, lessons book, enlarge it online, and have them read the words online across. It saves time. So that's what we're doing with the student we're working with now. we just moved to go into the lessons book. We blew up the print and then we highlighted it and he just read the words across. We want to at least once or twice a week, instead of this, go to diagnostic syllables, which I'll show. Back of the board should be done regularly. Spelling words, we will either have them write or go to word processing and type them. This child decided that he wanted to go to word processing. So he has a folder where we have both his spelling words and his writing that he opens up and shares with us. So we'll dictate words and then he'll write. And then we have half the period in reading. Now, as part of that half the period, we are doing the timed readings and we'll finish up with a quick gist statement for writing. That's generally what it looks like. Okay, so let's take that and make it more practical. So I'm going to pull the board out. Okay, and you can have the schedule in front of you to see what I'm doing as I review. So I start with mouth or spelling. Anytime you're saying the sounds, it's spelling. Anytime your mouth is moving. So this kid, I'm going to take the kid that we're tutoring now, that I'm breaking this tutor in on, and I'm going to go with his problems. So we had trouble with R. He went to speech therapy. By the way, we've cleared this up in 4 days with him. And he's been in a lot of speech therapy for him. And we just cleared it up in 4 days. We went roar and he got it today. Roar.
Can you show the full schedule? Steve, or are you showing the board? Where are you?
I'm showing the board right now.
We're seeing the schedule.
Okay, let me put the board up. I'm sorry. Okay, so we did roar and he nailed it today. He had trouble with x and y. He had trouble with ah. So we taught him to look up and he does it. He's very cooperative. So when it comes to ah, he goes ah up in his head. We reviewed that, and the short vowels. We just taught the hungry ending, so we reviewed that orally. And then we then gave a few definitions of suffixes like past tense, ed, didn't, action, ing, most, est. And then we didn't do the slide drill because we haven't taught soft C and G yet. We then went to reading where we very quickly pointed. The whole point on reading or pointing is speed. We want to get them going quickly. We did that. We then had them read the suffixes and we asked if they were bullies or not. Okay, a few. We didn't do the soft C and G again because we haven't done the slide drill. Okay, then new concept. Okay, somebody wants the hungry rule, so let me do that. I pull out these two letters to get ready for the hungry rule. And then I go here and say, we're going to introduce some ending sounds. Now these have small and big pieces. See, and this is the first letter of the big piece is silent. O, this is O. Notice this C is silent. Ch. The first letter of this T is silent. J is a new one. This says J, this is J, and that D is silent. So let's say these. J. Now, problem is for reading, this isn't a big issue. For spelling, it is. So the deal is we got to figure out when to use the big piece. And short vowels want a bigger piece because they're hungry. So let's just start out and we're going to compare these to desserts. Pick your favorite desserts. If somebody says fudge ice cream, good. Do you like fudge or hot fudge on it? Yeah. How about whipped cream? Great. Nuts. Perfect. If you're hungry, do you want a small or big piece? I want a big piece. Good. Picture these as the big desserts. Okay. Now, when you got a short vowel, before these sounds, right before these sounds, nothing's after it, just right before the ending. It's hungry and wants the bigger piece. So what would it take him back? Take the bigger piece because it's hungry. Good. All right. Then I'd take like this out and say, how about in batch? Is it hungry or not? Yes, it is. Is it short vowel alone before there? Yes, it is. It'll take a bigger piece. So then I'll do the same with bat and DGE and GE and double S. Okay. Then I'll use range for my variation, because you can do about 3 with these. And I'll say, now we have a friend. Okay. With a friend, you want to share. So you don't want to take the bigger piece, you want to share. And you're going to give him part of it, and you're going to take part, so you're going to take a smaller piece. So we would do that. And then we do the same with ranch, that it would take a smaller piece, and rank. Okay, that'd be our new concept. Now, tomorrow, this is what I did with my tutor today. Today, after he taught the Hungry Rule, the next day we had him teach it back to us. We pulled out a couple words and we taught it to us real quick. Just took a minute for a review. Now we're at syllable work. Well, if you've done the Hungry Rule, you're going to be doing hungry words. So I'm just going to do some. I know most of these from memory, so we'll just go from there. I'll say, okay, pull out the word idge, and the child will go I, j. Good. Now we'll say he's at step tracking. So make the word ridge, and he'll go ridge, and he'll go, I'll say here, this is where that first sound's going, r, I, j. Pull out the r, ridge. Okay. Now both step tracking and concept tracking do the same thing. You say the word, you do the process and say the word again. With step tracking, the process is stepping on each tile and then change. With concept tracking, you just change. So let's go with more step tracking. Make it reg. The child would go reg, r, j. Notice they don't get rid of this yet. They're just telling you where the change is going. And they'll go I to e. Make it rag. They'll go rag, r, j, to e. Everybody with me. Microphones on. Tadge, everyone. Tadge. Adj. R to what? Tadge. All right. Taj, everyone. Taj. Yeah.
j,
A to Taj. Chaj. Chaj. Ch.
ch,
A
j,
to ch. Chaj. Now, step tracking is the most crucial thing for starts 1, 2, and beginning 3. This is where all the action is step tracking. Concept tracking for higher 3s and 4s is where the action is. But for beginning, this is where it's at. Now, usually when I move from step tracking, if I have a 1, 2, or 3, is when I'm now moving into open, close, silent E. And I have them do re, to ret, to rem, to re. I start moving into syllable or concept tracking. So let's see the difference in concept tracking. In concept tracking, if I say the word is rid or vaj, they simply go vaj and they go right to the change. Ch to v, vaj. So it's the same as step, but I don't step, I go right to the change. In step tracking, I would have gone ch, aj, then made the change. Okay. Now, if I make it thaj, they go thaj, they have to watch your tongue on this, or they'll put an F. Thaj, they will go v to thaj. Okay. So that's the syllable work. This is where all the action is. This is what studies indicate that people are not doing for poor readers. And this is what makes all the change, is step and concept tracking. Now for reading, it's speed. I'm moving in and I want them to go thedge, chedge. If they make a mistake and call that chadge, I cover and say, you said chadge, is that what you see? Chadge. Shedge. Check. You said check. Is that what you see? So I'm moving here. Now, again, once I'm at a certain point, let's say I'm now at our family with the kids. I can just go to the words. This is much quicker. And I want you to show how it's pretty structured too. Well, let's say I'm at vol tag. I might introduce a vol tag. So I'm at vol tag. Rather than building these, which will take a while, I'm going to enlarge this. And I'm going to highlight it. And then they're going to
You
swing
want
it.
us to see something,
Yeah, we don't
Steve?
see your screen.
Gotcha. So I enlarged the words from concept 8, highlighted it, and they go BAPCOM, BIPCOM, RIPCOM, LIPCOM, LAPCOM, YAPCOM, REAP. This is the nice thing about Zoom. Zoom has some advantages, and one is I can make these words bigger and highlight. And I'd say, great, let's go to this row starting here. Fat yap, flat yap, flat yap. So notice we can get much more done, okay, for the reading syllables. Or in place of this, I can go to diagnostic syllables where this is measuring how well I'm doing in the program. So I think page, no, 16. No, come on. 18, okay. These are the diagnostic syllables. Okay, so let's say I'm at the hungry rule. This down here tells you the concept. This is a list. So hungry rule has, well, just one list. So I can go here rather than doing the reading of syllables on the board and time them. And this, I know if they can do this in 20 seconds or a little less, that's okay. 15 or less is good. 10 or less is great. That's what I'm shooting for. Now, if they're doing this in 35 seconds for 10 words, their fluency will not improve. You can't read faster than you can attack these words unless you have a sight word ability. Your speed is directly related to how quick you can do syllables. So what I want to hear from them, well, I want you to get a sense of what 20 seconds looks like versus 10. So I'm going to time myself. On my phone. Presently, I'm misplaced. All right. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right, Steve, are you ready? Yes, I am. Okay. So on your mark, get set, go. Muck, Taj,Zetch, Dref, Ish, Lek, Jadge, Hock, Fitch, Snitch. That's 20 seconds. That's okay. Kids will usually start at 35. All right, let's look at what we want. Here's what we want. Muck, Taj, Zetch, Draf, Pish, Lek, Jadge, Hock, Fitch, Snitch. That was exactly 10 seconds. That's what we're shooting for. If they can do that, they can do bombastic, reputation. They can knock it off. So this lets you know how the child's doing at their speed of syllable work, okay? All right, now after that, the schedule is spelling. If I've taught the hungry rule, I'm going to give the child hungry words for spelling. Now, some of them will write them. The child we're working with goes to his notebook and he writes them in the notebook. So here's what he's doing in his notebook. he's got something like this, and he is typing them, which you can do here. And so we'll give the word etch, and he'll go etch, and he shares his screen with us. So I can see what he's doing. Etch, match, 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 grudge, grudge, hack, hack. So he goes ahead and writes the words, and I approach it. Now, to answer the question, I've answered the hungry, the one about memory, you don't talk after you give a word. You don't say a thing, because that causes proactive interference. The new thing overwhelms the previous thing. It's called proactive interference. So when I give the word sick, I'm quiet. He echoes sick. So what he's got to get is go back and echo sick, sick. Okay. If he forgets it, I will say it again, but that's all I'll say. So if I give him the word tuck, he goes tuck, tuck. He goes tuck, tuck. It's all I say. No proactive interference. That should solve the memory. To be quite honest, I don't know. I haven't had a kid yet who, when I did this, could not remember the word if I don't say anything and then I just give them the word. Now, if it's a sight word, I pretty much don't expect them to get it. I worked with a kid at WAS yesterday using phonographical mapping, phonological mapping, and he didn't remember it that day, nor did he remember it today. I wasn't surprised because his word formulary is not firing. Okay, that's different. That's a word formulary problem. Okay. Okay. So he goes, this would be in his notebook. He's the student. And then when we do our written response, it's also here as well. Okay, we then go to reading, which is 25 minutes of the program. So you want to have the book already up on the screen, which I don't. So let me get it. Okay, so I'm going to take a book from, let's do Adventure Series. And let's go, this is a 2-syllable book I'll often use with boys, Invaders. Share the screen. Okay, now here, we're alternating reading words so he doesn't get worn out. So he'll do desert. And my turn, I will, if he's having trouble with the vowel tag, I'll verbalize it. Okay, let me see. All right, this vowel tag's the V. Okay, nev, A tag's the D, Nevada. Oh, Nevada. What's the word? He'll say Nevada, then his turn. Suddenly, then mine, I might go, okay, let's see this at, the vowel tag's the P, append, happen. Notice this has a what sound? A dis sound. His turn, object, mine, expected. So I'm modeling, but occasionally I will verbally walk through it. So we do these words. Then we do the silent E, we alternate. And then the phrases, if there are any. There's no phrases here. Okay. Then we do pressure release. Now on digital, because of the time lag, we have to take pressure release and break it up into 2 parts. One is when I take over, I can't have him read with me because of the 1 second time lag. I have to have him read in phrase after me, but I must point to the words. Otherwise, he'll just recite what I'm saying without looking. And then when I want to move ahead in the book, I'll take over and leave out words. So let me show you what that looks like. Randy, you be the kid.
Okay.
All right. Initially, I'll be pointing. So what's this first word?
The capsule.
Okay. What's that sound like? There was a
capsule.
All right, let's look at this. They had a space. You said capsule. What's that sound like? A space?
Oh, space capsule.
Yeah. So if a child is close to the word, I will use it in a phrase because the word's in their head. They just got to unlock it. All right, go ahead. You start. Go ahead and read.
It was a strange night.
That's one struggle. Keep going.
There were strong winds in the town of Stonic Creek. I'm doing the vowel tag.
No, you're fine.
Stonic Creek.
All right, this is really two words. It's a compound word. What is this E going to do to the O? If that was at the end of that word, what would it be?
Make the vowel long.
So what would that be?
Stone Creek.
It's two words joined together. It's called a compound word. That's a hard one. Okay, now we're going to echo. I'm going to do a phrase and I'm going to have you do it after me, okay? Are you ready?
Yes.
The town was, your turn.
The town was
Used to big winds.
used to big winds.
Used to big winds.
Used to big winds.
It sat
It sat
on the edge
on the edge
of the desert
of the desert
in Nevada.
in Nevada.
All right, take over.
The winds were at 50 mph.
That means miles per hour.
Miles per hour
Abbreviation, go ahead.
and getting stronger. The town had about 3,000 people in it, and most had been born here.
Good. I want you to reread that sentence like you talk.
The town had about 3,000 people in it, and most had been born here.
So I will have them reread like you talk when they are rough on a sentence. All right. Now let's say we've been reading and it's a longer chapter and I want us to move along. I will do the fill in the blank. So Randy, what I want you to do is follow me and read in your head, kind of in a whisper, try to stay with me, and I'm going to leave out a word, only fill in that word. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, follow me. They all
Knew
to close their
doors,
and write out the
storm.
but
Tonight,
was not going to be the same for these.
people
Sheriff Graves was taking his nightly
ride.
through town when it.
Happened.
So notice I can do a larger block and move us through a chapter with this technique. Okay, take over.
Suddenly, there was a flash across the sky. As the object got closer, Sheriff Graves was sure it was typo in the shape of a capsule. Boom. The object hit and exploded.
Good. All right, let's pause here for a moment. Yeah, we can make this typo. That's page 3. All right. Now, so we move this way. Then once we're about done, see, this is a longer chapter, so it'd be good for you to take over doing the fill in the blank to move the child through it. That's when the child's doing well in the book. But
It's
then,
okay. Yeah, excuse me. It's okay to stop in the middle of a chapter sometimes, right?
absolutely. And if you
Yeah.
do that, if you know that if it's a longer chapter, you're only going to get halfway. I only do half the words, so I have more time in the chapter. Then the next day I do the second half of the words. So I'll do like
Right.
the first line of each area. So now we do the beat the clock, where I time them for a cold reading.
All right. I have to check and see what my puppy's chewing.
The reason I gave Randy Sheriff is she really could not sound that out. It's a weird concept. So I just gave it to her. So I'm going to time her. And if she misses a word, I will often be swinging under. When she misses a word, I will make sure she says it correctly with me, so she doesn't say that word wrong 5 times. So as we're going through that, if she had trouble with because, I would say because with her. Then when we're done and I time her, I would go back and we'd read their problem words. Then I time her again. Then I time her again. Now today, the child started at 60 minutes and got down to 30 his 5th time, which is pretty impressive. That was 60 words a minute is what he read first time. And at the end, he was reading 120. That's good growth. I mean, it's not permanent growth, but that's what we want to see. So we do the 1 cold, 4 hot. What I will tend to do at the 4th one, when he has 2 left, is I'll give him a time to beat and I'll say, you beat that, we're done. So at the 4th one, I'll say, if he's at 30, I'll say, you get 26, we're done. And that really motivates them. And if they don't get it, we do another one. But I'm constantly putting challenges to the kid. Now at the end, we'll do a basic gist statement. Now really, another word for the gist statement is main idea. So when you're doing somebody did something because, that's really the main idea of the story. So I'll say, give me a gist. They will tell me the gist. And then my student will go and, my tutor student will go and type it in. And then we'll do cops and correct it. And we're only correcting the spelling words we taught.
Remind us what cops is, Steve.
What is it?
Remind us what cops means.
All right, so let me go ahead and do this and show what we did. So I'm going to go to new share. And I'm going to clear this. So, and I'm going to be him and he. Okay. So he went, there is a water. I'll say, go look in the book for this. Oh, waterfall. I suggest they look in the book for tough words. There's a waterfall that is coming up and it is dangerous. Good. Okay. So cops, I'll have them write cops above it. So we check, well, actually, I usually capitalize it because it's a COPS. I'll say, okay, let's check for capitals. Did you capitalize it? He said, yes. Good. No organization. You need a somebody did something or who or what did something. Do you have that? And he says, yeah, there is a waterfall. That's kind of telling us there's a place where there's a waterfall. Okay. Punctuation. Do you have commas or periods? Oh, no, I need a period here, which he noted. That's kind of lame. Okay. And then spelling, waterfall he picked up. I haven't taught this. I don't worry about it. Dangerous, I haven't taught yet. I might choose to teach there as a sight word. And again, how I'd approach that when I teach spelling sight words is I'll say, okay, I want us to type out the word there. Tap out the word there. Step 1. It's phonographic mapping, phonological mapping. There. Okay. So let's look at how they're spelled. The, air. Okay, is there anything here that doesn't look like it plays fair? How about the air? The air. Well, that does say eh. How about the r? Well, this is the part that's kind of hard. Okay, let's underline it. Okay. Oh man. Well, this is the hard part there. Okay. Actually, when I did it with him, I'm going to clean this up. I use this. Okay, so let's go back. We tapped out there. Then we looked at it. Does that play fair? Yeah. Eh, good. There, yeah. What doesn't play fair? Then under this part, that doesn't play fair. There. Okay, good. Now, want you to go ahead and copy that below and say it. Ready there. Air. Underline the hard part. Cool. Great. All right, now I want you to try and spell there. There. Okay. All right. Let's look at the word again. And don't be surprised when they spell it wrong. What do we need at the end? Oh, we need an E. And then leave it alone. Come back to it. Don't spend too much time. His word form area is not firing. But that's how I could teach that word if I wanted to quick teach it. Okay. So that is the cake that we bake that produces X amount of change in kids predictably. Any variation of that, we don't know what you'll get. Okay.